AFL 24 season is almost here, so it's that time of the year to predict where teams will finish up this time in September. Who will flop and who will reach the finals. So this time last year, I was still on a bit of a high from seeing Sydney live at the grand final after a bit of a destruction, but I was still excited for the future. The predictions last year were very Swans heavy. It was a slight misjudgment on my behalf, so I'm going to kind of just lower my expectations of my Sydney Swans this year. We're going to start at the bottom, 18th to 1st. Let's see what we think. Now, in 18th place, there is only one team. There is only one team in my mind that will finish last, rock bottom, and that is the West Coast Eagles. Last season, they weren't even plucky. You know, this I can say about North. At least North were plucky and they tried. West Coast were just atrocious pretty much all season. So I can only really put them down in 18th place. I don't see any real improvement this year because I feel that other teams around them last year will improve more than they did. So West Coast Eagles in 18th place. Now we look at 17th place. Now, this is a little bit tricky because there are a few teams around this area, isn't there? But I am going for the Gold Coast Suns. I feel that they lack consistency. They only seem to do well when they are playing at home. They don't really have that consistency you need to finish in the top 8. Now, I may be slightly wrong. Maybe they may finish just outside of the 8, but I don't see them getting into the top 8. So the Gold Coast Suns are my pick for 17th, but I may live to regret that. For 16th place, it's this team. Yeah, it's North Melbourne Kangaroos. I think they're going to get out of that bottom 2 spot at least. Last year, there was plenty of games where I thought, yes, this is their chance to finally win. And it didn't happen. It really didn't happen. But the difference between North Melbourne and West Coast Eagles is that North have that energy. They have that drive. They don't necessarily have the quality, but I'm hoping a year later, those players have slightly developed to improve, and actually if they can combine it with their energy and drive, then actually there will be slightly more quality and that will get them out of the bottom 2 spot. I think that is a definite possibility. They don't need that many more wins than they got last year. I think they only got 2 or 3 wins last year. It was not very good at all. But I think they can get a couple more wins this season. I think there's some teams around them that will struggle. So a 16th spot for North Melbourne. The 15th spot was actually quite a tricky one to call. I am going for Hawthorn Hawks. Now, they are a team that I just don't see much potential in. I don't see much quality in. They play all over the place, so they don't really have that home ground. You see them going over to Tasmania occasionally. I just don't think they're a team that have got the quality, but I think they will pick up more points than the North and West Coast at least, and probably I don't know, the Suns I might be really wrong. But I think Hawthorn, they just don't have the quality, so the only place I can put them is in 15th, and I think that's more than fair. Now looking at 14th place, I don't think Richmond, the team that I'm picking, should be any higher, and I don't think they should be any lower because they have some quality at least, with characters such as Dustin Martin and Shai Bolton. I think that's enough to pick up at least some wins because they will be linchpins in their team to create opportunities to score. So I'm going to put them in 14th place. I think they will pick up points, but I don't see Richmond getting anywhere near that top 8 spot. In 13th place is one of the biggest flops from the 23 season. My pick to finish quite well, Fremantle Dockers. Yes, they have a great song, But oh my god, they were bloody rubbish last year. So that has massively lowered my expectations of the Fremantle Dockers. They're a team that really lacks consistency. If we look at other teams that lack consistency, this Fremantle Dockers team, many of their games last season, they lacked any sort of attack. Their attack was very, very poor, but they then leaked loads of goals as well. So they were one of these teams that will pick up points, but not enough to get them into the top 8. So they are my pick for number 13. Now for number 12, I am going for Western Bulldogs. Western Bulldogs, actually, they finished fairly strong last year. They actually, I think they got into 6th place, if I remember correctly. But I don't think they were that good. I don't think they had that much quality, and they got through. They did well in terms of what they are, I think, capable of, and that may be a little bit insulting to the Bulldogs, but I don't think they will have quite as good a season, and that's partly because I think certain other teams will do better. They will improve. So I'm going to put Western Bulldogs in 12th. In 11th place, yes, it is that team that won the grand final in 2022, the game that I went to. It's the Geelong Cats. Now, the Geelong Cats, they still, well, last year was a disaster, an absolute disaster from top to well out of the top 8. They really had a weird season. They started the first 4 games last year with losses. They had a little spurt and did well, and then crumbled again. So I don't really see any improvement. Their team hasn't massively changed. So I'm going to pick them for number 11. The next 2 for 10 and 9 are the nearly teams. That's what I'm going to say, the nearly teams. In 10th place, we are going to have Essendon. This is a team, you'll find out my number 9 in a second, but this team and the other team both started so well last season. They were right up there and just fell apart. Whereas other teams had the long-term consistency, Essendon, they just could not keep going. They are a nearly team. They are not going to stay in that top 8. Whether or not they have a good start to the season, they will not continue. There are other teams that have the depth, the quality, the youth that brings the excitement and the goals. But Essendon are not one of those teams. So Essendon are going to be in 10th place. And 9th, the next nearly team, is St Kilda. St Kilda, yeah, they are known for failure, right? They are known for failure. Old Cardi might not be happy with me, but St Kilda are going to be in 9th. You know, similar to last season, similar to Essendon, both started very, very well. However, like I said, they don't have that long-term ability to stay at the top. Teams like Melbourne, for example, they're a good example. Melbourne are just generally very consistent and are capable in these last few years to be able to stick at the top. Whether or not they finish first doesn't really matter. But Saints and Essendon are not that type of team. So, St Kilda in 9th. Okay, now we get to the top 8. Last season, oh, the grief we got as a Swans fan. Alright, I'm going to put in 8th place. This year they are actually going to get in. It's Adelaide Crows. They've got some really good players. Powell Pepper, for example. That's just one example. Who brings that excitement, that aggression as well, that the Crows do well with. So I think this year, if the umpires don't slightly screw them over, I think Adelaide Crows are more than capable of finishing in 8th. In 7th, it's Toby Green's Orange Army, the Giants. They did very, very well at the end of last season. It was possible that the Giants weren't going to make it into the top 8 last season, but with a real push at the end of the season, they got onto some fantastic form and stormed up into the top 8. Now, I don't think they have the quality like the Lions, like the Pies, like the Demons. They don't have that sort of quality and depth, but they certainly have enough to get them into the top 8. So I certainly see the Giants making the finals. Now into 6th place, it was the surprise team from last year. It is the Port Adelaide Power. They did so well. They were top and second for pretty much all of the season. They were incredible. They were not expected to finish that well, but their form was amazing, especially at the start of the season. Now, when it got to the finals, I went to the game against the Giants and oh my God, they were awful. But I certainly see them continuing their vein of good form into 2024. So I'm going to put Port Power into 6th place. For 5th place, it is my mighty Swans. The Bloods are going to reach the finals this year, hopefully a little bit more comfortably. Now, last year it was a little bit of a mess. Our ruck situation was pretty much a disaster. We've got Grundy now as the main ruckman, so hopefully that consistency there is really, really going to help him. We don't have the what I would say the difficulty of having a certain buddy anymore. Yes, I think it was exciting having Buddy playing, but I don't think it was good for the team actually. And then he retired, and I think it was a settling in period, letting players get their game time. Heaney didn't really impress most of this season just gone, so I'm hoping he's going to have certainly a better season. I think it's going to be a little bit more comfortable for Swans. Hopefully, we had a lot of games which we lost right at the death by 1 point. We drew a couple of games. Hopefully, we're going to push over the edge there where we don't have a huge lead and let it go. So we're going to have a huge lead and keep it. But I still don't think we've got the consistency of the teams I'm going to pick above us. But 5th place, I would certainly take. So that is where Sydney Swans are going. Now for the top 4. In 4th place, one of the most boring teams in the AFL. I know you all love me saying that. It is Carlton Blues. They did well last year. I'm not going to say they didn't do well. They did really, really well. They got over the line in games. I still don't think they're a very exciting team, but they did well, and I think they're only going to improve on that. So I think I'm going to put Carlton Blues in 4th place, and they're going to have a pretty decent season in my opinion. Now for number 3, I am going to go for Melbourne Demons. This is a team that recently has been fantastic. They've been consistent. They're going to reach the finals, and if they don't, I will eat my hat, as the saying goes. But Melbourne Demons are a strong team. They have the best ruckman in the league in Gawn. And it makes a massive difference, and they are just a quality team. Now, I think that is it, the consistency. Now, they could be a team that gets 1st place, could get 2nd place, could get 4th place, but I certainly see them in that top 4 area. Now, for the top 2, it is going to be the finalists for last year. I'm going to put Collingwood in 2nd place. Team that wins, they don't necessarily go and do quite as well the following season, but I think Collingwood are still a quality team, even though ABC, anyone but Collingwood. But Collingwood, I'm going to put into 2nd. I think they're going to easily make the finals. I don't think they're going to have the same situation as Geelong had. They win the grand final and then plummet. I think they will still be able to stick around. And there's no reason why the Pies can't get 2 grand finals victories in a row. But my prediction for 1st position in the ladder is Brisbane Lions, and they have a huge advantage when it comes to the home games. They've got the heat that helps going up to Queensland. Obviously they have to come away, but I think they're going to pick up plenty of points at home. They don't often lose at home, and that is a big advantage for them to have. They have that depth in their team. They have a fantastic team spirit as well. I find that same with the Broncos, a fantastic team spirit up in Queensland. It's amazing, considering Queensland isn't typically an AFL area. They do bring it, and I was so impressed with them last year, and they could have won the game if they stuck it out. But my prediction for 1st place is the Brisbane Lions. So that is what I'm predicting. How do you think my predictions will go? Is there any that you think are completely wrong? Please do let me know down in the comments. Now, I am running a Super Brew competition, and it involves you picking which teams are going to win each week, but also by what scoreline. It's fantastic. It's good fun. We had over 100 people in the competition last year. I finished 49th. I went downhill just as the season. I kept picking Swans to win, and that was not a good idea. So just links will be in the description down below. So make sure you join our AFL 24 Super Brew competition. It should be good fun. I'm going to be doing my predictions every week. So make sure you join in with that. And I will catch you next time.